Ready to see something with fire? Hey guys, welcome back. Brian Kennedy here, and this week I'm going to show you guys how to do the Mexican waterfall. Now obviously this is a trick that involves alcohol and fire, so you got to be 18 and up for the fire, 21 and up for the alcohol. Alright, let's go over what you're going to need, but first, little disclaimer. This is very dangerous, yes? So be very careful. This kind of a trick makes me more nervous than when I fire eat because of the fuel involved. Alcohol is a pretty volatile fuel, and it's sometimes pretty unpredictable. It's because it's very susceptible to temperature change, and the temperature, if it's too warm, makes it kind of explosive, and when it's too cold, it doesn't light right away. And then there's also the factor of the lighting. So the first thing we're going to go over is safety, because this is the kind of stuff that can happen. Before you go and you try this, if you are of age, obviously, make sure that you go and you look up every fail video for flaming shots. All right, watch the mistakes. Also, try this with water before you actually do it. Practice the pour with water. I'm gonna mention things, a lot of safety things in this, so be ready. So this trick is called, typically I've seen it called Mexican waterfall or the flaming pour. It's got a bunch of different names. The basic idea is that you are making this stream of liquid on fire pour from one glass to the other. It looks really cool. So what you're gonna need, obviously, is fuel. So in this case, we have Bacardi 151. You also want some sort of a mixer, usually a juice, ice, and you want two types of glasses. You want a rocks glass, a thick rocks glass. Make sure it's like almost the thickness of a beer glass, because this is where most of the heat is going to be for most of the time. And you don't want it shattering due to pressure changes. The other thing that you're going to want is a snifter. Now snifters are typically about as thick as wine glasses, so keep that in mind. You're going to have somewhat of a time limit when you start after you light it. But this is what you're going to be pouring from. Both of these glasses, you usually just find it at Goodwill. Just check them for thickness. If you can find a thick version of a snifter, go for that. Much better. But that's what these are called. The idea of a snifter is you're probably not going to find a thick snifter, because a snifter is usually meant to be held like this, and the idea is your hand heats up whatever contents are in here, so it makes an aroma. So usually it's with brandy or a dark beer. You want it warming up a bit as you drink it, so the aroma comes off and it gives it a different flavor. So that's typically what you're going to find. The other thing that you're going to want is a placemat. People typically think, oh, I'm dealing with fire, I'm going to want to do it straight on the table. No, you don't. And the reason is if you spill the liquid while it's on fire, it's going to roll off. The only thing that's actually burning in this is the vapors. So if you accidentally pour it on your mat, as long as you put it out pretty quick, it's not going to burn your mat. The idea with the mat is it contains it. If you miss or it leaks out for whatever reason, the fire is going to be in one spot. That way it doesn't start spreading. It might seem counterintuitive to use a placemat that's going to absorb liquid, but trust me, you don't want that liquid. It's worse to have it rolling around the table. The other thing that you're going to want is behind your bar or whatever, you want a rag that's soaked, because that's what you're going to use. Now you can blow this out. I would not recommend it. It's better to just snuff it out with the rag, right? So if you do miss, it'll be contained in one spot. That way you can take the rag, snuff the fire. One other thing to keep in mind, alcohol tends to burn blue. It burns dark. You need to have a dark environment when doing this. You want to be able to see the flame. If you light this with these lights here, we're actually gonna have to shut these off when I show you how to do this. My lights anyway. We're gonna have to turn off some lights so you can actually see the flame. The flame is pretty dim. It still looks cool and you'll get some bursts of yellow, but overall it's a blue flame, so you can't see it. That makes it dangerous. People have drinking shots that have been on fire and then they shoot out fire from their mouths and burn themselves up because they couldn't see the flame. So keep that in mind. Also, temperature of your liquid is pretty important. Don't refrigerate it. You want it at room temperature. You don't want it hotter, and we'll talk about that as we go. All right, so here's how you're gonna set this up. Oh, by the way, you also need a lighter. That would be important. All right, so here's how you're gonna set this up. You're gonna have your rocks glass in the center of your pad. You're gonna want about 3 ice cubes in it. You're also gonna want your mixer pretty ready to reach. That's what you're gonna put the flames out with. The mixer, by the way, is not important. It's more about presentation than it is about the mixer. Any kind of juice will do. This is just grape juice. So you can choose kind of anything you want to mix it in with. Just don't use another alcohol, because it actually will light on fire even if it's less than 50%. So use something like juice. So make sure that's on the right side, or whichever hand you like to pour with. You are going to take the snifter and you're going to lay it on its side. The stem needs to be whichever hand you're going to pour with. Again, you should practice this and practice pouring. Now, one thing you'll notice with the snifter is that when you pour it, every once in a while it might leak down the side here. So practice pouring. Always keep the side of this dry. So you might want to have a dry towel as well, because if it's wet, the liquid will follow that wet. So if you get one drip coming out, that liquid, when you pour it, will actually follow, and you don't want those flames following down. So make sure the side's dry, and then you're going to place it just like this. So once you have this set up, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your fuel and you're going to fill it. You don't want to necessarily fill this to the brim. You just want a good sized puddle in there. You're going to, again, mess around with water till you have a pretty good stream pour, because it's not going to matter if it's on fire or not. You just want that stream. The fire will follow the stream. Close your alcohol. By the way, your alcohol needs to be 50% or above. best to have 75% or above. The higher the percentage, the brighter your flames. This is Bacardi 151. They don't make this anymore, so you might be stuck with Everclear, which kind of sucks. By the way, any alcohol that is that high of a content isn't going to taste that great. This is more about a presentation than it is about a drink. So we're going to turn the lights off. I'm going to light this, and then after you light it, you don't want to waste too much time. You want to take it and then pour, and you're going to start at the ridge of the cup and then move up until it's all the way out. And if you still have some left here, start moving back down. You may have a few flames still on the cup. You're gonna blow those out. Your cup here should be on fire still. The ice helps to put this out, but it might not put it out right away. And if it doesn't, that's why you have your mixer ready, and you're gonna put it out with the mixer. All right, so here we go. Let's see if we're gonna turn off these lights so you can see exactly what's going on here. All right, so it's a bit darker, probably not good as quality in terms of the video, but there you go. Now, if you leave this to warm up too much, you're gonna get a little bit of an explosive effect. So again, this is a timing thing. You're gonna wanna make sure you don't leave this in there for too long. So this is already heating up. I can feel the heat from it. So you're going to pour, go up, blow, make sure, put that to the side, away from the cup. Now this is still on fire, so in order to put that out, now I can let this fire go for a little bit longer because this is a thicker glass, but keep in mind the glass heats up the longer you keep this in here. So you're gonna take your mixer and pour that in until all the flames are out. Don't give this, if you're giving this to somebody to drink, because usually that's what you're doing, don't just give it to them. Feel the lips of the glass before you give it to them. And if they're too hot, swish it around a little bit and warn them it's still hot, because it is. Or don't give it to them quite yet. Wait till it cools off. And just to remind you how dangerous this is, here's a couple extra alcohol flame fails, okay? Be super careful if you're gonna plan on doing this. I know it seems like a very simple drink, but make sure you practice this before you actually try it quite a few times so you got a little routine down. Because if you do make a mistake, and I've made mistakes doing this, I've poured it, and it's gone on the table and leaked out. You don't want to freak out, and you want to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be, so you can simply just grab the wet towel and put that fire out if that happens. And it can happen. You might do everything right. Alcohol as a fuel is just a finicky thing. So be very, very, very careful. We're not really using too much, but this little bit of fuel, if it goes all over the place, you don't want to be freaking out. Remain calm, put it out. It takes a while for this to really burn anything important. So just make sure that you're calm and you've got your towel in place. All right, that is how you make a Mexican waterfall.